do yourself a favor and stop repressing that version of you that you seek to express. Now, understand there is a shadow within you, and every time you neglect to express that, it's going to grow, and you're going to express that unconsciously. Instead of consciously making a decision to do something you wouldn't normally do, to suppress that, it's going to leak out of your consciousness, and it's going to build up until you let it loose, until you let it out, or you transmutate it. And you have to understand that every time you let that shadow build up, what you're doing is repressing yourself. You need to express yourself at the highest level, which is every version of you. Every level of yourself you must express. But the problem is the loops that continue after you consequentially learn your lesson, but fail to recognize the fact that once you learned your lesson, you don't do it again. You have to understand that when you express your shadow, there's an experience that is going to be withdrawn from you, and that experience is a lesson for you to now embed into your psyche to construct yourself in a more harmonious manner, to not have those things manifest, to not have those problems, to not have those sorts of situations manifest. And so every time you sit there and you repress your shadow, you're robbing yourself out of an experience that you can learn from if you actually learn it. Now, some of you guys just continue making the same mistake on an infinite fucking loop. If your consciousness is telling you to quit and then you go back into the addiction, you're going to continue that shit on an infinite fucking loop, and you're going to continue to fail yourself, and you're going to feel like shit for failing yourself, which you should feel like shit for failing yourself because you failed yourself, when there's a potentiality that you're supposed to turn into a possibility by actually going through, taking action, and actually completing the task your soul, your consciousness has gave you to complete, which is to quit your addiction, which is to get off your ass, go hit the gym, and to begin taking steps forward in your personal development, to refine yourself, to look at yourself in the mirror and understand that you need change. It's not that you want change, you fucking need that shit. If you didn't need change, you wouldn't feel the need to change. Dumb fuck. So understand that you need to change bad, and that's why your soul, your fucking consciousness, is telling you to change. But you never want to fucking change because you're so arrogant and you're so egotistical that you could have just looked in the mirror, embraced the fact you have flaws, and do some shit to fix some shit and to move accordingly and to align with fixing those problems. And so when we look at you expressing your shadow, now your shadow is a habitual expression. You sequentially express your shadow on a habitual sequence. Now every day you're smoking weed. Now every day you're watching porn. Every day you're trying to, do some shit that is negative, but you do it anyways because fuck it, right? Because that's what the shadow is. You see something negative, you want to do it, you say fuck it. But the thing is, when you do that and you crystallize that into a habitual fucking neurological brain sequence, when you crystallize that into a fucking neurological pathway, you're going to resonate with that, and you're going to be unconsciously expressing your shadow. The whole point is to consciously know that it's wrong, but to do it anyways, to go through that shit that comes, and then to learn and to construct yourself with the experience that you've drawn out from expressing your shadow. So it's all about extracting experiences and constructing your soul accordingly. Fucking hate airplanes. I hate helicopters. We'll just give it a moment. And so when I say things like, I feel like Hitler, I hate you so much, I hate you more than you hate yourself. I don't literally feel like Hitler, and I also don't hate you as much as you hate yourself. But there's a part of me that, when I see someone who is doing the bare minimum and then laughs at themselves when they could be doing so much more, when I see someone who makes a joke out of themselves to become a comedy for themselves and to laugh at themselves, it's embarrassing to my soul. And, some part of me, deep within resonates with the collective, and to see, a fellow, humanoid, sit there in his disparity and laugh at himself when I know he can take a step forward. It makes me feel like Hitler. It makes me want to build, camps all around. It makes me want to start putting them in one by one. If you can't, you have to understand that when I say that, I don't actually want to do that, but, that is a form of shadow expression. And so you have to understand that people live in their shadows. People are living in their shadows. People cannot go out into the world and express themselves like that because they are that of expression in their day-to-day fucking sequencing. So for me to say that, that is not me. I'm wholesome. I'm one of those individuals. I'm wholesome. I'm authentic. I'm myself. But we have people that sit there in this loop of a stagnation, in this samsara cycle of being a shadow their entire fucking life. And so the goal is to never be like any of them. The goal is to transcend all of them. And so when I say I feel like Hitler, I hate you more than you hate yourself. I don't actually, I don't feel like Hitler actually. But, to see somebody doing the bare fucking minimum when you wake up every day and do the fucking maximum, when you wake up every day and you pursue the best version of you relentlessly and you conquer yourself and dominate whatever fucking endeavors in front of you, to look in the mirror and to just absolutely decimate and conquer that individual. To grab life by the neck and to, shout in its face until, it submits to your power, until you get to that level. Well, I'm gonna feel like Hitler. I'm gonna feel like Hitler around you because I hate you that much. Because to wake up with that power of ferocious, aggressive energy, and then to see a bitch, it just makes you want to feel like Hitler, makes you want to take them out, makes you want to go one by one, putting them in camps, because that's how they make you feel. They're just so mediocre. It's astonishing. They're so mediocre. It's extraordinary. They're so mediocre. It's just, it's next level. And, as we transcend, they descend. And so when we see them, the level of descension is just like, wow. We look at you in awe for how much you've descended in life. So, don't suppress your shadow, express your shadow. But make sure that when you go through the consequences, that you don't regret anything. You just go through it and you learn and you reform and reconstruct your soul, with the experience that has integrated into your psyche. You're going to reconstruct yourself accordingly so you don't end up on this infinite fucking loop of making the same mistake like all these fucking hominids that don't have the intelligence or the awareness to realize that, they're sitting there in a fucking cycle of never-ending failure. Don't be like one of them. Self-development community link in the description. One-on-one mindset coaching link in the description. Go ahead and, reach out on Instagram if you have a question or whatever. But don't suppress your shadow, and make sure you're conscious if you're fucking your shadow. Like, if you wake up in your shadow, there's a big fucking problem. The problem is you. If you wake up negative, the problem is you and you live in a shadow. So don't be a fucking shadow, because when the light begins to ruminate the room and the light begins to expand and just blinds you, when the light reveals and exposes that parasite bitch that you are, don't get mad at the light, get mad at the bitch in the mirror who's actively feeding their shadow. Peace.